Alright, and welcome back folks to another Let's Play video here on Eurofront, focusing on the Eastern Front. And the term right now is August 1942, and we are now continuing the German 1942 summer offensive. So far, so good. And I'll tell you now, the war, at least from how you say from a personal interpretation of, say, the movement of these blocks on this board, I would say that 1942 is looking quite different than 1941, or at the very least is looking similar, more similar than you would expect, which actually makes it feel very different. And I'm not sure why that's the case, but if anybody else has been sensing that or something like that, do please comment below, because that is a phenomenon that I'm still trying to wrap my mind around. And frankly, it is a very nuanced. It's a very nuanced phenomenon, but there could be a number of factors that contribute to why, to the we'll say strategic fighting of 1942 in this particular game. For some reason, I've spent a lot of time playing Eastfront, which, as the name suggests, is simply like it's like half the game, and you only focus on the Eastern Front. Eastfront 2, second edition, and that was a really great starting place to get into the game. But the game, you could feel that the game has some sort of geopolitical constraints, and I think the obvious one is the sectors. And after a while, I mean, I don't know what it is about the Eastfront game. I can show you, at the very least, the Eastfront 1941 setup, and I think the area where the game differs the most than, say, Eurofront is the reinforcement table for Eastfront. You'll see that most of the German units that are arriving are predetermined, and they are at full strength. So, however way you take it, this is essentially, I think, the developer's interpretation of the historical reinforcements that the German army was receiving. I don't know the exact data with regards to that, but I presume that the data is relatively accurate, given how, throughout Operation Barbarossa, the German army was receiving a steady stream of reinforcements, but they were very low. Basically, what this suggests to us is that each month of 1941, starting in July, pretty much the whole period of Operation Barbarossa, the German army received the equivalent of about 4 divisions per month. And I think the actual figure is 3 divisions, give or take. But these are full-strength divisions, and they were probably very reliable German formations. The only problem was that the German army was receiving 3 or 4 of them per month, basically, when their casualty rate was on a much greater order of magnitude on the Eastern Front, given just the scope and scale of the fighting, as hopefully you all saw in my 1941 videos, which I guess I can link. I can actually add a YouTube link. I can do that. I can link it back to those previous videos, and hopefully you saw that the casualty rate for the German army was probably on the order of about 4 to 5 units per turn, I would guess, just off of the top of my head. That may not even be right? But there was a casualty rate for the German army, is what I'm trying to say. And in every battle since then, we've been sustaining losses. And I mean, this is nothing new to the German army. I think what made Operation Barbarossa so different was that it was just happening across all sectors of the front. Somehow the German army had this huge strategic momentum in 1941. What I'll say, the fundamental difference from 41 to 42 so far, and this was, you could feel this in 1941, but it's come to greater effect in 1942, but it's the simple fact that the German army, every second fortnight so far, in June and July both, the second fortnight we've had to pass our turn. So essentially the German army advances for 2 weeks, then they halt for 2 weeks, then they advance for 2 weeks, they halt for 2 weeks. And that was a theme in Barbarossa. It's a theme in this year as well, except this time it seems like, I guess because of the distances, each army group can't support the other army group. That was the unique part about Barbarossa, is that I could at least command, one army group that could actually somehow command both formations, which I don't know how historically accurate that is, but I can definitely say that in this game, in the 1942 summer campaign, it's just a guaranteed no that you can overlap those HQ abilities, because the command range is, even at full strength, the front is so vast now. It's a much wider front in this game than I think in the 1941 scenario. So those are just some observations I have. I wanted to throw those out there because that's kind of the forefront of what I would say is this qualitative analysis that we're doing of the game. I would say that's like the main theme, is that 1942, we're seeing a slower paced German army. But having said that, the other effect that actually surprised me even more was the fact that we still have been able to devastate the Red Army. The Red Army has lost some pretty critical battles, and the casualty rate for the Red Army has been substantial. And I think the two most significant areas were essentially the battle for Kursk, except we had a 1942 version of the Battle of Kursk, which was really interesting. And then, but it wasn't just Kursk, but there was a large salient, essentially, which was a product of the Soviet winter campaign. So the Soviets essentially focused on a central drive. Either that, or actually, I think it was simply that the German army never attacked these areas. They kind of held off, quite frankly. So it was a bit of both. By the end of Barbarossa, the German army got stuck at Smolensk. That was the real takeaway. And speaking of Smolensk, the German army did finally break through at Smolensk as well. So two notable breakthrough areas, and the Soviet casualties have shown. And so even now, the Soviet dead pile right now that we have is the dead pile from Smolensk. 3 Soviet armies, including a shock army, as well as some tank corps in support, all wiped out. So those were some notable victories. So as far as casualties, I'm pretty certain that the Soviets already, in 2 months of fighting, have sustained roughly about 1 million casualties, give or take. The Kursk sector was significantly high. It was, from what we calculated, 7 Soviet armies were wiped out. So that's the equivalent. I mean, it was in this entire region, and going all the way down to pretty much near Stalino. Like the entire sector here was just completely smashed by the German breakout, basically. And it was a kind of almost a textbook German operation. It really was. It definitely reminded me of the swift action that we saw throughout Barbarossa, or say the Battle of France, or say the Low Countries, or even the Balkans. Greece and Yugoslavian campaigns. Basically another example of the German army demonstrating operational superiority pretty much in every category, including superior numbers. I'm pretty sure the German army had more numbers as well that they were able to commit to the sector. So overall, very well done by the German army. I'm not sure what the Soviets had in mind. At least what we tried to do as the Soviets was just maximize our mech corps. And it was simply, we just didn't have enough of them. We didn't have enough mech corps, and they were chewed up, and the Germans had just more firepower, apparently. And so they really wrecked the Soviet formations. Also, the Soviet armies themselves were spread out pretty thinly. I mean, we only had like 1 army per hex. And I'm not sure why I did that, but, I just tried to maintain a full front line at all times, and that kind of was the result. So I find all that stuff pretty interesting. So with all that said, hopefully my audio has been pretty good. I think so. I'm going to presume so. But let's continue on with this turn, because this is definitely probably my favorite part of the game overall, is when the Axis have the strategic initiative. And then I think it's both their offensive action, which is very challenging to do, especially year after year. It becomes harder and harder. And then on the flip side, the Allies are getting stronger, because thus far in our 1941 scenario, the Allies have made, I think, overall more blunders than the Axis. We saw the big British blunder at Derna. This whole area was just disastrous. So that was really embarrassing for the British. And then since then, I mean, the British haven't had a really good success anywhere else. I mean, they succeeded at Tobruk only then to get smashed at Tobruk. So, you know, that's that. And you know, the whole Cherbourg ordeal, probably another strategic exchange, if you ask me. I wouldn't say we won that as the British. And then as far as the Soviets, as I've mentioned, they've just been getting smashed so far in these 2 months. So it's been pretty rough for the Allies. But that said, the German strategic situation is still not all that much better. Why? Because we'll get into that in a moment. But anyways, we're going to focus on the Allied perspective for now. And I guess I already started the log file, or I guess I did. I didn't end the log file. Yeah, I didn't end it. So now we're going to start the next one. We're in August 1942, still high tide for the Axis, even the summer. We're like basically halfway through the summer, and now we're soon approaching autumn and fall. And another thing to point out, I'll get into that in a moment. So with that, let's just start the Soviet production. Soviet production, though, they still control Leningrad, including the rail supply with Leningrad. So that's been good. The Soviet winter offensive, at least, its benefits are still paying off even now, despite the devastating Soviet losses. Yes, we lost Smolensk, which was a nice position, but we still have a lot more to do. The Soviet position, I think, is very tenuous, especially given the fact that the Soviet units themselves are just not good enough, in my opinion, to stop the Germans. That said, though, we have a lot of them. And they're spread out. They're very diluted. So we have a strategic defense in depth, basically. But eventually, the German army, as long as the German army is not limited by its own logistics, they can really smash across anywhere. In theory, it all comes down to how well. It all comes down to the dice rolls, right? It's going to come down to how well the German army can break through these sectors. So far in the war, we've been getting really good German dice. That might change. I may have just jinxed it. Who knows? So, so Soviet production is at 62, because they gained 6. That's right. They're at 62. So let's go ahead and build. We're going to build up Stavka for sure. I think I might build up this Ukrainian HQ. Might as well. So it's already 20 production points. I don't think I need to build up anything more with HQs. Keep all the other Soviet HQs pretty much at under strength. Because, I mean, really, the priority right now needs to be on rebuilding our combat power for the Red Army. That needs to take priority for sure. Otherwise, we may even lose Moscow. Who knows? We do have the fog of war element as the Soviets. And I'll tell you now, playing as the Soviets, they look a lot weaker. But when we switch sides, I'll tell you now, as a German player, it's very hard to attack the Soviets. But you can never really tell. Right now the German army looks extremely menacing with all these black units here. I kind of wish they kept them like, we'll leave them as black. I think that's probably pretty accurate. And so anyways, you got all these black squares here, right? All across, eastern Ukraine, going all the way up through Belarus, right? Belarus, all the way up, right? And then got this big stack of German gray units attacking here near Leningrad. So it's all pretty interesting. With our remaining 32? No, it would be 42 production points. Let's focus on infantry. Just rebuild up the mass of the infantry, basically. So all these level 2 infantry, I'm going to build up all of them. So I've already spent it on 4. Right? Yep, I spent it on 4. I got to remember which ones they were. So I'm actually going to use a little marker because I frankly lose track of them. At this point in the war, I think there's just so many that I'm kind of losing track of them. So building up those 4. Maybe I shouldn't do that because it kind of adds a fog of war. It clearly indicates what the Soviets are doing for the Germans. But at least have level 2 infantry. Also build up this armor. Maybe even build up all our armor. So that was 4 infantry, that's 8 production points, plus the armor, that's 12 production points. Plus maybe if I build up these 2 more armor, we've spent 20 production points on the Soviets. And that's going to leave me with 22 left. And I think my plan for rebuilding the 22 was going to be committed to, we should probably build up this infantry here. Let me do that real quick. Now we're down to 18. And I think what I was going to do is just try to close this gap, if I can. Close the strategic gap with something. Something better than nothing. And of course our units are under strength, but at least we have a continuous line. And we also have this river. We have a lot of rivers that we can use to repulse the enemy. Number 1, and number 2, the other thing to keep in mind is, you know, even if the German army does break through here, there's really not much that they'll gain strategically unless they actually attack a city. So either they attack Saratov or they attack Stalingrad. They're going to have to attack somewhere directly in order to actually gain a production, you know, gain like a strategic win, right, by gaining more production. Otherwise, you know, they're just winning operational battles, but they're not necessarily the overall war from like an economic perspective isn't changing. So I think all that's pretty interesting. I'm going to go ahead and build at least 2 units. That's going to cost 8 and 4 respectively. So that's 12 production points. And I said we have 18 left. Now we're down to 6. We're only down to 6 production points left. So we don't have a whole lot. I wanted to close this gap, but I frankly don't think we have enough production points to do so. With 6 left, actually with 6 left, I could probably just build up another mech corps, which I should definitely do, and I can put it in there. So I at least build three more units. That's pretty reasonable. And I don't know if I get any reinforcements for the Soviets. No, we already spent it all. Now, as far as other Soviet, troops, I probably should build up a little bit more of the Soviet infantry, like these guys here. These 4 Soviet infantry should probably be built up. Every infantry should probably be built up, frankly. So maybe this is not the right idea. Maybe I'll cancel this build. Actually, I'll cancel the armored build, because that's just really expensive. And then I'll go ahead and focus all those production points on just building up our infantry. Like so. And that seems a lot more reasonable. I don't have a lot of infantry armies, right? But the few that I do, actually I have a lot. Each of these units is an army. So technically we have 6 Soviet armies. Although the Soviet armies themselves were smaller in proportion to the German armies. So these are actually more equivalent to corps, but the Soviets call them armies. And you'll notice that with the Soviet side, all the names are kind of like off scale. I used to think, or you could argue that it's just a different sort of military doctrine, but I have reason to believe that it was intentionally done off scale, and that's part of like a deception technique, really. In a way, if you call it an army, people are going to think it's a larger army. Just from the name. When you actually look at the figures, though, the Russian armies were actually still quite large. Some of them got pretty big. So I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say when it comes to that kind of data, frankly. But anyways, that's it. That's all we're gonna do for the Soviets. I'm thinking, should I build up more infantry? Should I try to build up maybe a couple more infantry armies? I do think we should build up more units. I don't know. It's probably better for me to build units than to build up all my ground troops. Maybe I got to keep this HQ at level 0, which is something that I really don't want to do. But maybe it's the better call. Also, I don't have any other units trying to close this gap over here. So that's kind of weird. So yeah, no, it's hard to say if this is the right move or not. It is very hard to say. I think my production is pretty reasonable. I just do wish the Soviets had more troops. I'm thinking we should probably actually build up these ground units, man. I may cancel this Ukrainian build, and instead, to add more to the strategic reserve for the Soviets, I can go ahead and build. Maybe we should go ahead and build 2 more armies and put them in Moscow. Or maybe I'll build this veteran unit, Northern Front unit, instead. And then this 11th Army, I would like to build it somewhere, but I just don't know where I would even want to put it. And then the other problem I'm seeing is, you know, we could really use more units in Stalingrad too. So I don't know. The whole thing I think is strategically tenuous. Frankly, we're gonna put the 11th there, because, yeah, it's just a more cost-effective unit. And then I can also I would like to try to build 1 more Soviet infantry if I can. Maybe put it in Stalingrad. Yeah. It's a very tenuous situation, really. I would like to put another unit in Stalingrad. Because right now, I mean, right now as it stands, our army won't be able to defend Stalingrad as it currently stands. So I know I'm taking a long time with this production, as I do usually. But I'm definitely trying to like make sure these videos are good length. You know, ideally like hour and a half. But I can tell you now, it's just taking me a minute here for me to figure out the best combination. Yeah. Because, you know, our priority should probably be to defend Moscow. But I also don't want to completely, like, neglect Stalingrad. Not completely, no. So I may even cancel this armored build. You know, a good thing to find out, and I can use this as kind of a point of reference, is look at the 1942 Soviet setup for the summer, and just look at how much Soviet armor was available in June 1942. Here it says they had 8 armor by June of 1942, which is actually pretty impressive. They had 4 armored units and then 8 combat values. That's 2 per unit. I'll tell you now, the way this scenario started, I don't think we had that. I think we had less. I think we had much less. So man, yeah, the Soviets definitely suffered some pretty heavy losses back in the Battle of the No. The Battle of the No was definitely disastrous. Battle of Smolensk was another huge disaster for the Soviets. Operationally, they got there. They definitely got beaten. And then more recently, the Kursk battle, another major operational loss. So we really haven't been able to build up the armor because all our frontline units were wiped out. But right now I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. No, actually, I count 6 Soviet armored units and 13 combat values. So we're actually doing pretty well. I'm actually going to reduce this Soviet armor by 4. That gives me 1 more unit to build up. And I'm thinking that the best unit to probably build up would be a unit at Stalingrad. I'm pretty sure. So we're gonna actually put this infantry there, and then we're gonna put that guy there. That should do it. I think that's as good as it's gonna get. Maybe let's put this unit in Kalinin instead. How about that? Interesting. So yeah, that's it for the Soviets. Definitely a long turn there, but I think it was worth it. We're going to move over to the British and do the Mediterranean front. So let's go ahead and do that. They get a production of, let me change these markers here. They're going to get a production of 30 for this month. So that's going to be 6 dice. They get, what is that, 18 plus 4, that's 22. So we're definitely going to build up this HQ. That leaves me with 12. And then with the remaining 12, oh, I say we build up this armor. Let's do that. Very nice builds. British are getting a lot of armor, and their infantry are looking good. Their mech are looking good. I think that the British may even be able to launch their own offensive very soon from Egypt. The Axis may be the ones having to defend. At this current production rate, the British are doing really well. For Western Front British production, I believe it's 17, right? According to this, it's 17. And so they're going to definitely build that up. Build up another HQ. And then with the remaining 7, I say, can we build any lost British units? You should probably build up some of these units that got destroyed from earlier battles. The Battleship War, that's where they were mostly destroyed. And we could also build up another infantry unit. This 10th infantry unit we could build up in Egypt. I think we'll hold off for now. Yeah, we got enough to build as it is. I'm going to put this, you know what, I may cancel that armored build. No, that was good. That was a good build. I'm going to go ahead and put this infantry, I'm not sure where I want to put that infantry. I'm not sure what the British strategic plan is for 1942, frankly. I have no idea. What would be the best British strategic move for 1942? Where can I put the British reinforcements? I'm pretty sure I can put them in any town. Pretty sure of that. But let's find out. Also, how's my audio doing? That might be not loud enough. I don't know. I hope the audio is good in this video. Something that I'm still working on for sure as I make these videos. But yeah, focusing here on these units. Let's see here. What was I trying to figure out? Where to put these? Put this British unit. And there, yeah, there's a production section. It says here, British units can arrive in home cities, but not towns. No, yeah, these are cities. That's a minor city, major city. Yeah, got it. Okay, so yeah, we'll put this unit. I guess we'll put it in Dover. I guess we'll just put that British unit in Dover. I'm not sure what else to do with it. Unless I want to build up any other formation types. I could. But no, the British army here is okay. It's better at defending than attacking. We don't have any armor. British have no armor. That's probably the biggest weakness I would say they have right now. They have no armor. So that's that. We'll switch over now to the Axis production. So let's go ahead and do that. I think we're done with the Allies. Before I do that, let's just do the diplomacy phase. We're rolling for the second front. Pretty sure that's how you do it when you play by email. And so you just, we're not exactly following the sequence, right? Technically we're not, but if you're playing with another person, might as well do as many moves as you can before you send off the file to the player you're playing against. And so, if you're going to be playing as the Allies, it only makes sense just to, if you have a diplomacy event that you want to do, might as well do it now, since in a normal game, what would happen after both players do their production. And we're rolling for this. We have to score a 1 or a 2 for this to actually occur. So let's go for that. And we actually scored a 2. Wow, amazing. As easy as that. Now we have the second front. And I will say I'm excited, but I'm also like for the Axis, because it's going to get much harder for the Axis for sure on the Western Front now that this has occurred. I don't know where I should put it. Oh, you know what? I know where to put it. We'll put it on the timetable here, and then I'll put it like here. Indicate which month it occurred on, and then I'll also, with the label, I'll give it the year that it took place, 42. And so now we know that event had, when it happened and where it happened. So yeah, I'm pretty sure on this turn, the British get to roll first. Also, something else that changed is that we now may stack 4 units in Malta or Gibraltar. I think before it was only 2. Now you can put up to 4 units. And so now we really could actually get ourselves invading. If we really wanted to, we could invade Morocco and Algeria on this turn. That's something that the British can do. I don't think... the British are going to be the ones who can pull it off. I don't think we really don't have any Americans. We only have 1 American unit, and it doesn't even have amphibious invasion. So, interesting. What are the advantages of getting Vichy France out of the war? I think the only real advantage is if we secure all the ports. Until we take all the ports, then we can actually gain naval supremacy. That's the advantage. It's kicking the Axis out of North Africa. But, we're going to have to do it from Egypt and from Morocco as well. But doing it right now without any American support, that's a more complicated question. But if you look at the Vichy units, there is... Oh, another thing happens, by the way, with this rule, before I forget, I'm pretty sure these units become demoralized. That's right. And so there actually are some conditions by which Vichy France will surrender now that Vichy France is demoralized. So we're actually going to use this icon. So 2 events technically took place. The second front and also the satellite are also demoralized. So yeah, that also happened. So it's kind of like a negative Axis diplomatic event that just occurred too. And before I forget, let me just quickly point out to y'all give you a little bit more insight into the what's it called, diplomatic, or I think it's called political rules in the game. It's both diplomatic and political, but geopolitical is just the way to sum it all up. But there's a whole section called War and Peace that talks about both the diplomatic events and the political rules. And the rule that we want to focus on is the demoralized rules, because I think right after that, it talks about surrender as well. So this actually occurs during the political phase. So you can almost think of the diplomatic events as something that's somewhat under the control of the player, right? You get to roll dice to make those events occur. But the political rules are kind of, they're more reactionary events. Diplomatic events, you could think of them as triggering events that the player can act upon, while the political rules are the reactionary events. So if certain situations on the board physically change, then you do these political events as well, or basically you do these political. I'm going to call them events, but basically the one that we want to look at is surrender. And different nations that are demoralized can surrender in one of 2 ways, depending on what kind of satellite they are. If they're a maritime satellite, they can surrender if certain ports are under enemy control. And then the land satellites surrender depending on how many hexes have been taken over by an enemy. And so these rules basically pertain to all of the satellite nations, which in most games that you play are going to involve the Axis satellites, right? So Vichy France, Romania, I believe Finland as well, or Finland may have slightly different scenario, I'm not sure. But you also have Hungary, you also have Bulgaria, you may have Yugoslavia if it was fighting on the Axis, and any other nation that joins the Axis. It could be Spain, it could be Sweden, right? It could be Norway, it could be any of them. But depending on whether they're maritime or land satellites, they will surrender in different ways. And I think there are some cases where you have allied satellites as well, minor powers. And so that's something to keep in mind. And so I think it helps to say it now as we're trying to build a strategy for the allies. And if you noticed in my more recent turns, I'm always talking about, I always have some sort of strategic, I'll share with you all some sort of strategic, strategic concepts that I think help kind of describe the nature of World War II fundamentally. Like what made World War II such a different war than so many other wars. I would argue it was a war in which you really got to see effective strategy being put into practice. These nations built strategies. All the nations built strategies, and about half of them or more had successful strategies. In fact, I would argue that at least one instance in the war, every single major superpower in World War II had an effective strategy. If it lasted a few weeks, a few months, maybe a few years, but at some point they did, and at some point that changed. So that I think that's the core of what makes World War II so unique compared to other wars in which half the time or more you don't really see effective strategies. You often see the opposite, which is many strategies failing. But World War II is also filled with many failures as well. So I really wanted to just make that point. How we're doing on time? Okay, we're good on time. Sweet, we're doing really well on time. That's excellent. So building a strategy is like, I would argue, one of the coolest, one of the most fascinating parts of World War II, but it's also just you can almost call it like, I don't know if it's necessarily a science. I think it's called the art. It's an art, right? The art of this idea of the art of war. And if you play chess, or if you play, you can actually study it with, like, say, Sun Tzu, very famous Chinese. I don't even know exactly what to call him. I guess military practitioner, but he's a very mysterious character. But you also have many other characters throughout history that demonstrate to have like a basic understanding of this. All the famous campaigns, right? Napoleon is probably another famous one, probably the most famous one. Probably arguably more famous than World War II is probably someone like Napoleon. I would say the Romans, the Roman Empire, very famous for its military campaigns. I think of someone like Julius Caesar. One of my favorite characters. The entire Mediterranean theater is just filled with strategies. It's ridiculous, but it's on a smaller scale. Definitely on a smaller scale. The technology was very different. I guess that was the big game changer. You had spears and swords, but Alexander the Great is another great example. I think Hannibal is really fascinating. The way they moved elephants from Morocco across this strait, and then moved them into Spain, and then proceeded to like try to conquer the Roman Empire, but they didn't have enough of an occupying force. They won the battles, but they lost the war. So, anyways, I think World War II, you're gonna see just a lot of like strategic theme. But the other last part I just want to say on this is that World War II is not only about strategy. Most people actually, I would argue, focus most of their attention on the tactics of World War II. So World War II is unique too in that it's filled with tactics. But the last thing I'm going to say about the tactical side of World War II is that its tactics are not necessarily unique to World War II. The tactics of World War II are almost an extension of the tactics of World War I. And then you could argue that modern warfare today is an extension of World War II. World War II tactics, especially when it comes to infantry and armor, as well as like combined arms with air support, and the role of communication. That's probably changed a lot. In all the wars, we see this big development in communication. But World War II had the machine guns. It had the tanks. It had ground attack aircraft. It did not have helicopters, but they did have. They basically had gunships of some kind. They had fighter bombers, ground attack aircraft. They had dive bombers. Artillery was very powerful, and it's just simply like it's just hard to get the mind to wrap around all those details. But That said, you have um, who make games like these, right? The developers of these games. This is a good time to give a shout out to the developers. And we've got Craig Besink and Tom Dalglish. Let me try that one more time. Craig Besink and Tom Dalglish, who help make these games. So the game design is very fascinating. That's the power of wargaming, is that it really tries to keep the things simple, but fundamentally these games are trying to model War II to some degree. Maybe it's just meant for just good and casual fun, right? You play this board game on a 3-day weekend or something like that. You play it's like on a holiday. I would imagine you'd play this like Christmas holiday, let's say, where you have the time to play, and you can play on a big old table. You get to play in person. You have all these cool pieces, or you can play Vassal Engine as the way we play it now. But either way, depending on how this game was kind of the way it was marketed, fundamentally, when you take a closer look at to what the game is trying to do, it's trying to model World War II. So there's this interesting theme of modeling that I think may be a contributor to the evolution of military history as a field of study. And that's a whole nother can of worms. I do have another YouTube channel that I am working on that is dedicated to Cliodynamics. And I think that's where this might be headed, is a trying to model World War II with some sort of like fundamentally mathematical description. But there's a lot, it's a whole can of worms, and I'm going to leave it at that. But it all comes back to strategy. And I think the only thing we're missing is the data science, right? And that's really just the missing ingredient, right? To get a more interesting perspective, or a clearer perspective, or just a more insightful perspective on something that is so data intensive, that was happening on such a huge scale across so many fronts, so many battles, right, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this video series is going to go on for quite a while. How many months were there in World War II? The war started in September 1939. Most would agree, officially, right? And it would go on until 1945. Starting with 1940, you've got 5 years of five full years of war, plus the 5 months of 1945, and the last 4 months of 1939. So I think that's 5 months and 5 years and 9 months, right? 5 years and 9 months. How many months is that in total? That's 69 months for World War II. At least in the European theater, it was 69. Technically, it'd be 68 months and a week, because I think Victory in Europe Day was May 7th or May 8th, depending on who you ask, right? So with that said, strategy, it all comes back to strategy somehow. So speaking of that, British strategy is just done. I think we finished the British strategy, right? I built up that HQ, and then I decided to rebuild a unit. We put it there in Dover. Okay. We're going to switch over now to the Axis production. We did the diplomatic event, and now the Allies do have the strategic initiative, at least on the Western Front. Question is what are they going to do with that initiative? That's the fundamental question for the Allies, and we will answer that in due time. We'll try to come up with some sort of answer. And then we'll look at the historical case by case as much as we can, because they seem to know what they were doing. They eventually won the war. So, or at least they knew more than what the Third Reich High Command was doing, seemed like. So, speaking of which, let's do their production. And we're going to start with Western Front production. This time, we saved 17 from the last turn, so now we have 34 for this turn, which is excellent. Where am I going to build up my units? That's a great question. I think I want to fortify as the front line as much as I can. And I would want OKW to be built up as well. I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm just going to build up these three these three fortified units. And that leaves me with 4 production points left over. And I think the only thing left to build, I think it's just these 2 infantry. And I also got to figure out, where do I want to deploy these infantry? Where do I want to deploy these reserves? You know, strategically, where would be a good spot? That's a great question. I don't know. Do we get any more reinforcements? Yes, we do. We get 1 more militia unit. I'm going to go ahead and put this militia unit. I think I want to put it in the Netherlands. I also got to be careful with an attack on Denmark. I mean, if they do decide to attack Denmark, they're not going to have like that much combat support. But yeah, let's build up Denmark to build to a level 3. So yeah, they could land in Denmark, no problem, and have supplies. But they would have to, like, it'd be a slow progress down Denmark, the Danish peninsula. And then also keep in mind that, you know, that we're gonna, I'm sure we could reinforce Hamburg, no problem. And Copenhagen seems pretty well defended. It's hard to say. We can always reinforce it there. By the way, the square areas are the victory cities, and that's the only place that the Axis can send reinforcements, that Germany can send reinforcements outside of Germany itself. Something to point out. So that's why I've been putting so many units in Paris, right? I can put more in Copenhagen. In fact, I could put some on this turn in Copenhagen. Maybe that's the better place to put it. Let me actually put this militia unit Copenhagen. And then I probably want to move it to Aalborg, right? And just make sure that the Allies can't land anywhere over there. We'll see. As far as German reinforcements, you know, I'm seeing that next turn we actually do get a fortress. And I don't know where I would want to put this fortress. I kind of want to put the fortresses on the Western Front. Try to protect as many ports as we can. Maybe I want to put it in Denmark. I don't know. Maybe I'll keep it as a strategic reserve. Try to figure out where I want to put it. I think I want to put it in Holland maybe, or put it over here and make sure that all 3 areas here are fortified. Maybe put another unit in Cherbourg again. You know, I have a lot of options, and I'm not sure. Maybe use it as a strategic reserve. You know, I could use it as some sort of strategic reserve. Maybe I hold off on building it for a while. I don't know. But it'd be nice to figure out what would be the best strategy for the Axis. We get a lot of militia units in the next few months. But anything to keep the British and the Allies at bay. I think what we learned from last turn is that our counteroffensive potential is pretty good. It's pretty good. I think the only thing I'm going to change for this turn, I don't want the Allies attacking anytime soon. That's why I felt very eager to build up these fortresses and not wait any longer for that. I kind of wish this level 2 unit, I mean, that seems to be the best place to put it. It's not going to be able to really repulse too many landings, but it has a lot of firepower. It has a lot of firepower, and it's going to be hard for the Allies to break out of that place. So no, maybe that's the best place to put that unit. But yeah, I'm not sure what else to do with the Axis. We've already finished our production. I would argue that the best move for the Axis would probably be to have OKW at full strength at all times. So let's do that. Let's just focus on building up our OKW so that wherever the Allies land, we have the ability to mobilize our forces in that direction as necessary. And I do think that is probably the best strategy right now for the Axis. I really do. Yeah. And then try to keep as much infantry as we can in France. Although we have a lot of infantry in Holland. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good place to put the infantry. Cool. I like the German defense. These infantry are basically a mobile reserve. I can send them to Belgium or Denmark as needed. And then I have a lot of other infantry here in northern France that I can use to actually counterattack, smash any allied landing in France, like good old classic German combined arms counterattack. So that's pretty cool. And then, of course, we got 2 fortresses here, right there, and then another here. So I'm feeling pretty confident. Pretty confident. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. Let's move over to the Mediterranean front. And I'm going to go ahead and roll for the Axis. They have 25 production points. We are building up our units. So we may or may not be able to attack. It all comes down to our dice roll. How much production we got. We got decent. I count 17 production points right now for the Axis. And that's actually just enough of what we need. Although our mech units are looking a little weak. We at least built up the Africa Corps, and we've also built up the Italian 10th Army. So now it's ready. But the militia, our mech units are not ready. We need 18 more production points before I can deploy them at full strength. But what I'm trying to say is that if I play my cards right, we could be looking at a German attack on Alexandria by on this turn. Quite frankly, we could see an attack. I kind of wish this Italian unit was at full strength, and it is not. It is not. What a bummer. But yeah, we'll see. I think I still need one more turn before I can make a move. I could try to use OKW and try to launch a very rapid attack, but I don't even think I can even pull it off. No, I think I could. I definitely could. I could pull off something pretty impressive. I could definitely pull off quite an impressive attack, I think. But the British may be able to. The only problem is that the British do have the potential to counterattack. That is the only problem I see. So you know what? I think this is time for the Axis to really think long and hard about what's their next strategic move. And I think the short answer is that we have to go all out on Alexandria on this turn if we want to have any success at taking it. It's either now or never, pretty much. It's pretty much now or never, I think, for the Axis. That's my just overall strategic consensus, because no matter what we do, the longer we wait, the stronger Alexandria is going to get. And I know the British are doing really well with production. They're going to get really strong. So the only way we can deny that with the British is if we can start inflicting some casualties. So it's either now or never. It's a gamble. If we fail, the British are going to counterattack. The whole campaign will be lost, especially if the Allies land in Morocco, Algeria, that sort of thing. We're going to have to fall back to Tunisia. But outside of that, we could achieve an Axis victory. And I think it would be cool to see that. But let's shift over to the Eastern Front, and let's go ahead and do that. Production there is 79 from what I remember. Yes, it is. And we're going to go ahead and build up our HQs first, including Army Group North, which has been making pretty good progress. Army Group Center had a pretty nice blitz. We didn't gain much territory, but we did wipe out a Soviet front, the equivalent of a Soviet front. Build up 4 HQs. That leaves me with 39 production points. Go ahead and build up our infantry, because I know we could use a lot more infantry. Starting with these 2 here in the center. Another 2 over here. That's already 4. Each costs 4, by the way, so that's 20 production points already. Another infantry, 24 production points. 2 more infantry, 32 production points now. That leaves me with 7 production points for the remaining turn. And I've just realized we still don't have enough production to build up our infantry. Our casualty rate still remains unsustainable. Amazing. Just absolutely amazing how that works out. I think we're going to pass on the finished production. They only have 3 this turn. And then we have only 7 left, right? We did not take Bryansk. I could have really used 1 more production point because I had this big old problem of building up units. And I still have the same problem. So Army Group South right now could easily use 20, more than 20. It could use the 24 production points that I just mentioned. I decided to give them all to Army Group Center. Right? And I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe Army Group Center, you know what? I'm going to cancel that. These 2. Because I think I decided that Army Group Center is going to defend against Moscow. I'm trying to deceive, right? Like part of my strategy is to deceive the Soviets. Although I could launch an attack on Moscow, I'm actually going to probably going to focus on the south. I think that's what I want to do. So let's focus on the south, right? So all this infantry, all this extra German infantry is the average is going to be level 3, meaning that strategically these units are not good for attacking, they're good for defending. And so with 1 OKH, what I'm hoping to do is I can transfer as many of these units as I can to the south. They can pretty much replace all the Army Group South units. I mean, I could easily send the equivalent of a panzer group and an infantry army, both, 6 German units easily from the center, and then have the rest move 6 from there, send those other 6 over here. They are all in range too. The central front looks pretty well protected. I got all these mech units there, and then all these other units that you see here. This is like what, you know, Panzer. What is this? At least 1 Panzer army, right? I count, or Panzer group, Panzer army, Panzer group, pretty much the same thing. But I count 4 Panzer Corps, but 1 of which is under strength. It's only level 2. So that's pretty much the equivalent of 2 Panzer armies, or Panzer groups, right? And then as far as infantry, you know, I count like 6 infantry corps or more. Yeah, I count easily like 6 infantry corps. That's the equivalent of 2 more German armies. So we got a lot of units. We just need to build these units up. And so, yeah, that's the only real modification needed right now. And then I also want to take Bryansk. The fact that we haven't taken Bryansk is a little frustrating. It is a little frustrating. I probably should have attacked it on the last turn in hindsight. So that's my bad, I guess. Yeah. And then while all that's happening, we're still trying to make progress on freaking Leningrad, man. And we haven't even started attacking the city. And I'm thinking the longer we wait, the messier it's going to get. I do want to be able to take Novgorod before we launch an attack on the city. But it's only going to happen if Army Group South can go for a blitz. It's only going to happen Army Group North goes for a blitz, because the Soviets are just stacking up units there. So messy situation. Definitely messy. I think I'm going to wait. I'm going to take my time with Army Group North still. Yeah. So yeah, I still have those 6 production points left over. I'm thinking if we cancel an infantry build, if we were to cancel an infantry build, that would actually give me 11 production points. And then with 11, I can go ahead and build up this mountain unit. And then the other remaining 6, I can go ahead and build up a mech corps. which actually would be kind of handy if we want to defend. So let's go ahead and do that. Yeah. So it's a tough call to make with the German army. I mean, we're doing our best, but it's clear that we just don't have enough units to attack everywhere. And now it's actually starting to look exactly like it was historically, I think. Yeah, we're just gonna have to make do with what we got, I think, for now. Yeah, just make do with what we got. I think we should try to take Rostov on this turn. Apparently, we may even have the Blitz on Rostov, and then we can make good progress on this turn. I think we can definitely make good progress. But outside of that, I mean, strategically, we still got a ways to go. We've got a ways to go before we can change the production situation or political situation, you name it. Geopolitical situation, rather. Because I don't think the German army can take... I mean, Rostov is one production point. That's nothing. And Bryansk, maybe two. I think clearly Leningrad is the juiciest target. In fact, Leningrad maybe Leningrad should take strategic priority. And that's what I may have to do with Army Group Center, is divert it to the north, support Army Group North to kind of accelerate our plans to take Leningrad, because I don't think one HQ is enough. I think we really need two now. That might be the best move, especially for the next turn, while the weather is favorable. Of course, if we transfer one HQ up there, I'm sure the Soviets will be able to transfer a lot of reinforcements themselves. So it is definitely a hard situation to make. We got to put some pressure on, keep the pressure on Moscow for as long as possible. If we divert our attention to the south, what basically happens is that Moscow, the Soviets won't be as eager to defend Moscow, and then the overall consequence is that it's going to be that much harder to take Leningrad. I would argue that right now, we need to keep the pressure on Moscow if we want to take Leningrad. That's kind of my fundamental argument I have right now. Keep the pressure on Moscow in order to take Leningrad. I think that's exactly right. And then if you can, try to take Rostov. But any other expansive drive is just going to be too ambitious for the German army. I think if we want to make a push into the Caucasus and feel more confident protecting the flanks, we're going to need a lot more Panzer Corps just to protect the flanks. Because right now, I mean, sure, we can smash through, but the Soviets just have a lot of units here in the south. It's going to be a long journey to get there, and then there's still no guarantees that we can cross this Caucasus Mountains. Or maybe we can. It's going to be a tough call. I think either way, at this point, we just need to accept the fact that strategically the Soviets are going to be able to defend these two sectors. But we still might be able to break through. Still might be able to. This is all very fascinating. German strategy. We'll see what we do. I still think we can pull off a good offensive somewhere. But I would, if we can take Leningrad and, like, say, Batumi, You know, if we can take Leningrad at the end of this of 1942, relieve Army Group North, just try to relieve one Army Group at a time. First, right now, the goal is to relieve Army Group's center. This is why I bought this fortress unit, and I want to now reposition it in Smolensk, start building it up to full strength, and then make Smolensk a little fortress. And that's going to be our defensive line against whatever the Soviets throw at us. Try to hold another defensive line over here. Maybe even fortify Kursk with another fortress. Maybe over here in Belgorod as well. You know, because I don't really need to go any further than Ukraine. You know, because there's really not as much industry anywhere else in our sector outside of Moscow. Moscow is the main hub. But it is a fortress. Moscow is the biggest military district the entire Soviet Union has. So it is literally the hardest target. And likewise, I mean, the other sectors are just very far away, right? Stalingrad, not even worth it. Leningrad, and then of course Baku way out here. So all that's pretty interesting. Let's see here. So yeah, I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and finish up this production. And then we're going to simply go ahead and start putting our strategic ideas into action. And let's go for it. There's one more production adjustment I think I wanted to make. I'll cancel this infantry build. I'm going to go ahead and build this guy up to level 3. Yeah. So I've at least given Army Group South as many reinforcements as I could. Try to minimize these reinforcements. We don't really need those, right? Actually, this guy, even this guy, I'm going to actually cancel. Pretty much canceled all the production here in the center. I'm going to give it to this guy here. So let me think. I'm just trying to remember, you know, so we had 39 production, right? I spent, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 4 there. So that's brings me down to 23, right? Then I built up this mech corps and infantry mountain units. That brings me down to 12. And then I think the last remaining 12, I don't even remember what I spent it on. I have no idea. Surely it had to be some sort of armored unit or something, right? Oh, and it was these 2 infantry, right? I built these 2 guys up as well. And then there was one more that I don't know where I built it up. This is what happens. I eventually kind of circle back around, right, to double check everything. But I do, let's see, 1, 2. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that right? Oh, yeah, 1, 2, that's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 24. And then 24 plus another 11 is 35. So according to this, I have one more unit that I built up. I'm just not sure which one it is, which is a bummer. And I kind of wish I did. I could cancel all this production and start all over again. I would say not the most professional way to do it, but it does work. Oh, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and just cancel it all. I do this so many times, but you know, it definitely breaks the sequence of touch base, you know, production, right? But it's fine. So I guess go ahead and rebuild all these HQs. And I'm just curious to know what that last unit was. And I just don't see it anywhere. So maybe I had one more left over, right? 39 production. Maybe I had one more left over. So anyways, let's do that again. 39 production. I'm doing 1, 2, 3 here. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna put it over here. 5, 6. That leaves me with 24. 29. 35. And now I have one more that I can build up. I did have one more. Okay, I did have one more. Maybe give it to Army Group North. Maybe Army Group North should try to blitz on this turn and launch a full attack on Leningrad. The only problem is that the Soviets could reinforce that area. It's only going to be worth it if we can sustain 2 attacks. I think that's the best. That's the most reasonable conclusion. And I think there is an incentive to get Army Group North to attack, to blitz. But if I blitz on this turn, I won't be able to exploit it on the next turn, on the next fortnight, because I don't have any HQs in range. So I think we should hold off on blitzing, just for now. Yeah, we're just gonna keep holding off, which I know is a bit odd. I mean, to me it seems odd to hold off like that, but I think it's the better call. The other problem I'm seeing is that OKH could provide air support on this turn, but I just don't know where. You know, for example, I can deploy to the north. It could send an airstrike to Novgorod, but then Army Group North has that covered. It's only going to be helpful if I decide to attack Leningrad on this turn as well. So maybe there is an incentive to attack Leningrad, because if we can smash Leningrad on this turn, maybe it is possible that the next turn we can blitz and take it. You never know. It's going to come down to good dice. Right now, the way I have it, you know, we have only 3 corps to attack Leningrad, but 1 is triple fire, 1 is double fire. So it's the equivalent of it's the equivalent to attacking with basically 6 single fire units. That's the equivalent of, we have the firepower of 2 standard German armies to attack Leningrad. 1 Panzer Corps and this mortar fire, this mortar fire regiment, I believe, that's attached to the 54th Corps. Okay, yeah. So let's go ahead and do that. Just for hindsight, we'll definitely just learning how to get better at making a strategic choice and sticking to it. But as you saw there, I initially focused a lot of production on the center, and I decided, you know what, we're going to shift that production to the south instead. And I think the geopolitical incentive, the grand strategic incentive, which is one tier higher to regular strategy, is the incentive to get Turkey into the war. So what better way to do that than to attack from the north and attack from the south? So that's that. And I think with that, let's end the Axis production and start the turn. No diplomatic events for the Axis. You know what? Yeah, we're going to start this turn, but I'm actually going to start with the Western Front, I think. No. Okay, so yep, let's start the turn. We'll start on the Eastern Front, I think, instead of the Western Front. And what I'm going to do on this turn is I'm going to activate OKH. I'm also going to activate Army Group North. I'm going to activate a lot of HQs, 3 HQs to be exact. I'm going to activate Army Group A. Of the 3 army groups, the one that's going to blitz is Army Group A. I think everybody else is going to stay put. And so let's go ahead and do some operational moves first. And the first set of operational moves I think are very clear, which is that we're going to launch a full-out assault on Rostov. And my intent there should be very clear. We are to smash as many Soviet formations as we freaking can. So you can see here that, for example, I'm attacking this unit that is east of Rostov, and I was actually able to flank around and attack from the eastern flank since it was unprotected. And the consequence is that this is not going to be a river assault, not needed. And do I have any more Panzer Corps? I sure hope I would. Just beginning to realize I'm still very low on armor. Thought I would have enough. But according to my calculations, I still do not have enough. Which is crazy to me. It just goes to show that we have a lot of infantry, but we do not have enough armor. But I definitely want to have at least one armored corps in reserve that I can use to flank around. So you know what? I'm going to take back what I said. And I think I'm going to launch... I am launching a river assault, it seems like. Unless... if I can break through... if I can break through, then maybe not. So no, never mind. I'm going to attack just the way I'm attacking now. And then we have OKH activated. So let's try to transfer some reinforcements. Start shifting around some units. The first thing I'm going to do is put Army Group Center back on strategic rail. That's one move that I want to do. I guess I'll move it this way. Then I'm going to move this fortress unit, put it there in Smolensk. So you can see that I'm just trying to maximize my defense. And then, let's see, I think the next units I'm going to send over, I imagine I would want to send over the Panzer Corps, but I have 2 more strategic moves, or 4 more rather. So let's send one to unit to Bryansk. So now, how many do I have? That was 1, 2, 3. I got 3 more. Then I can pull out another infantry. I guess this guy, for example, I'll have him move in from the side. Pull this guy over, send him to the north. Okay. Now that leaves me with 2 more, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that leaves me with 2 more. And I think the 2 more are going to be to try to get some infantry to cover this sector over here. To cover the flank of Army Group Southern's Drive. You can see I have a big cluster concentrated over here. What 2 units would be qualified to move over? That's the real question that I have right now. What would be the best 2 units? I imagine it would be some infantry. Definitely be some German infantry. The only question is which ones? Which infantry do I want to send over? Which infantry are available? I'll tell you now, the attack on Bryansk, would be great. We kind of overstacked over here. But I don't think the Soviets are going to be attacking. And then, of course, I'm kind of worried about this flank over here. So, yeah, it's a hard call to make. But I'm pretty sure these 2 are my best bet. These 2 infantry. So let's move them. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Was that right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, 9, 10. Got it. Yeah, come to think of it, they're a little They're not the best moves. They're too far. Kind of want to have a unit in Rososh if I can, and Milorovo. That's where I want to put them. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead. I wish, yeah, I could use more units. No, it's fine. We'll stick to the move I had. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Interesting. Kind of a strange, somewhat unorthodox move. These two units are kind of, I don't like their position over there in Pavlos. I think they're a little too spread out, but we're gonna have to make do. So that's that. Over here in the north, let's get our units moving around. I'm going to simply shuffle in some infantry. In fact, I can only shuffle in one infantry unit, really. And then just shuffle out another infantry. Yeah, so that's all I can really do for an attack there. And unless I want to... Oh, I wanted to... I actually... Oh, we are going to attack Leningrad on this turn, aren't we? I think we are. I have to also remind myself that... You know what? I think... Oh, no. Yeah, maybe on this turn we'll hold off from activating OKH. I think that's what we're going to do. We're just going to focus completely on the south. But then I have this Blitz sequence. That's the thing. No, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. I just realized that attacking Leningrad the next turn, we're not going to be... We need combat support if we want to score any hits. That's the only problem. So yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna go ahead and attack. Start the attack on Leningrad. I'm not gonna wait any longer. Hopefully it's worth it. So I'm gonna go ahead and activate the Mannerheim HQ. Because what it's gonna do is it's going to move the Finnish unit forward over there. That's exactly what it's gonna do. And then Army Group North, we're gonna start our attack. So we have two air supports. One, Army Group North is supporting Leningrad, and then OKH can support Novgorod with airstrike. And we'll see if it works. I have 0 reserves. That's the problem with this attack. We have 0 reserves, which is a bit of a bummer. So you know what? I'm actually going to move this guy there. Move this guy here. That's the fundamental problem I see with our sequence, our attack sequence right now. So we have 0 reserves, but the good news is that in September, I do think we'll be able to get more reinforcements to move over. If we can take Bryansk on this turn, I'll be able to transfer more reinforcements to over here, to the north. And I think that should be fundamental to our strategy. So yeah, let's see how this goes. Okay, and then we got one airstrike here. We'll put it on Novgorod. See if I can smash through. I can put the marker. There you go. Okay, so yeah, thanks for your patience if you've made it this far in the video. Because now I am going to start the battles. We got 3 battles, technically 4. So we got plenty of battles to do. 5 battles actually. We got a lot of battles on this turn. So let's go ahead and start. We'll start the battle of Rostov. Start with the airstrike, a double fire, no hits. Infantry roll defending, they score 2 hits. Ouch. Soviets are not playing around. We have the 7th Panzer Corps, usual German formula. Seems to be working so far. Followed by the infantry. Okay, we only scored 1 hit there. Okay, so Rostov still holds. Then we're doing another attack here. No river assault. A lot of units attacking. 13th Army will roll, scoring no hits. Panzer Corps will roll. 1 hit, infantry. Boom. Another good roll by the Germans, and they smash through. So even if the German army can't take Rostov on this turn, we will be able to at least encircle the city. Now, it won't really make much of a difference because the Soviets control this strait between Kerch and Novorossiysk. So they have supplies going through that strait via sea. And Rostov is a naval base. So actually, no, we will put it under siege supply, come to think of it, once we encircle it. So that's that. Let's do the Battle of Bryansk. And we don't have combat support, but we should be able to score 3 hits. We need to score 3 hits. They have triple defense because it is a urban center, and urban centers or major cities provide double fire defense. You can look at this at the terrain effects, right? And it says major city has the firepower defense is double fire. So they have double fire and double defense, both two effects that are interplay here, double fire and double defense. But because it's unsupported combat, it's going to have triple defense, right? So the Soviets roll, they score hits. This is why we put the infantry there. Panzer Corps will roll, and they score the hits needed, and Bryansk falls just like that. Easy peasy. That's because the Soviets didn't reinforce it. That's why it was so easy to take. And so that's that. That was worth it. We can change the production sequence. The Soviets lose 1. The Germans finally gain another. So that's convenient. And then now Army Group Center is in a very good position to transfer reinforcements away from the sector, and they can send them somewhere else, either to the north or to the south, pretty much. So that's that. And then let's do 2 more battles, right? We've done 3 so far. Battle of Novgorod. Soviets reinforced with the 50th Army, right? We can zoom in. They reinforced with the 50th Army. We're going to do the German airstrike. Oh, and actually, I just realized I could turn on this highlighter, this mouse highlight. There we go. Nice. There you go. You guys can see this a little bit more easily. I meant to turn that on earlier at the start of the video. But we'll do airstrikes. They scored 1 single fire hit. And then we're going to roll the Soviet defenders. Let's go ahead and do that. They have double fire dice, shock army there. And then we also have the single fire by the infantry, 5 dice there. So it's 2, 3, 2. Wow. And the Soviets, just like that, smashed the German attack. That was unexpected. That was really unexpected. The Soviets just scored 5 hits against the German army. Ouch. That was a lot of hits. So, yeah, that was really bad. So, hold on. Shock army scored... Wait, hold on. Did I do that right? No, sorry. The Soviets scored 4 hits still. It's a lot. So, that's that was 1 hit there. 2 hits there. Our infantry are the ones that are really taking the main damage. The infantry are the ones that took the main damage. But we still have at least the Panzer Corps that can roll. If they can score some good hits, we may be able to even the fight. Let's see. They scored 1 hit. The infantry score 1 more hit. So we only scored 1 hit against the Soviets. So we at least made some progress. But at this rate, it's not sustainable. The Germans are going to have to... They're going to need some serious reinforcements here if they have any hopes of taking Leningrad. Speaking of, let's start the Battle of Leningrad. It's going to be a very interesting turn. Very interesting turn. I just realized that, yeah, we could have made more moves in the north. But, oh well, not this turn, unfortunately. We could attack with more air support. Yeah, that was not the right move, wasn't it? No, it's fine. Let's see what we can do at Leningrad. Man, let's see if it pays off. Airstrike, let's go. Boom, just like that, they score one hit. Wow, they actually scored one hit with just air power against triple defense. Amazing. So the Luftwaffe did their job. It's up to the German ground units now. And the Finnish. The Soviets are going to roll, though. They scored 2 hits. Ouch. We'll put it on the Finnish and on the Panzer Corps. Now we get to roll with our triple fire, followed by double fire and single fire. And just like that, the Axis score yet another hit. So not bad. Not a bad attack on the city of Leningrad itself. Although the Battle of Novgorod was a total disaster, the attack on Novgorod was a total disaster by the Germans. The assault on Leningrad was a good success. They're actually halfway. They're actually halfway to their target. They are halfway to their objective. Not bad. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Very cool. Very cool to see. Okay, so that's really good to see. We can deactivate Army Group North since it's not blitzing. Unfortunately, the blitz phase doesn't really matter because I don't think I'm going to attack Novgorod. I could, but it's not recommended because then all the hits are going to go on my panzers. So I'm going to hold off on that. But we can go ahead and do the blitz for Army Group A and see if we can smash Novgorod on this turn. Either way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and try to encircle Novgorod. That's the main plan. Truth is, I don't really have too many units that I can encircle with, quite frankly. I can, though. I think we want to pull out my infantry. Okay, I can pull out 2 infantry. I see. These units, by the way, moved via rail. So they cannot actually participate in the Blitz. We had another Panzer Corps in the north, and come to think of it, I kind of could use it right about now. Because I just realized we don't have enough units to really go all the way around. So I'm going to send 2 units in there. I'm going to I think I'm going to focus on trying to smash Rostov. I don't want to encircle it. Like I don't really care for encircling the city all that much, quite frankly. And also the other question I want to know is, do I want to attack Stalingrad right now? Or do I want to hold off? And we'll see what the Soviets do. The chances are they're going to set up a strong defense here in the south. And it's up to us to smash that defensive line pretty much. Another thing to point out is Voronezh will not have a unit there. Ooh, that's not good. That's not good at all. I could have sworn there was another infantry here, right? Huh. Could have sworn the Germans had another infantry unit there. In fact, I kind of want to double check. Could have sworn they had another infantry there at level 3, no? I guess it's this one here, the 35th. I guess that's the unit that I'm going to leave behind. And then maybe I should try to encircle Rostov. Maybe, maybe not. Perhaps. The other question to find out is, do we want to attack? Are we interested in attacking Stalingrad? That's the other big question. Maybe we don't even prioritize too heavily on Rostov and instead just try to spread out, spread our units around, keep the Soviets guessing, because we might be able to take Stalingrad on this turn. It's possible. It's going to be hard, but it is possible. Very, very possible indeed. We can launch a Blitz on Stalingrad. 2 rounds of combat. Try to capture the city. It's very feasible. We may even be able to encircle the city. That might be a better move, I think. Would be to encircle the city rather than try to capture it. That's another option. Interesting. Interesting set of choices the German army has. We could try to encircle Stalingrad, or we could try to keep a push on pushing to the south. Stalingrad would be the juicier target in the short term. We would gain a little bit of production, but then same can be said for Maikop. They're actually equivalent. They're actually equivalent, which is interesting. We do have more Soviet units to deal with here in the south, though. Several more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Soviet armies or units. Here, though, we got like the same amount. I'm going to keep focusing on the south just because I think the flank is a little easier to manage. But it is a very predictable advance. That's the only problem I see. And so I don't know. I feel like in order to maintain the advantage of surprise, I kind of want to keep the Soviet army guessing. If I can, just keep them guessing. For sure. I think that would be the coolest. I think that's the coolest overall option that we have. To keep the enemy guessing. And I really could use one more Panzer Corps, let me tell you. Oh no, it wouldn't have made a difference actually. Yeah, so I think that's going to be our move. And I could try to pull out one more Panzer Corps and try to encircle Rostov, but I'd rather attack the city and gamble trying to capture it with brute force if I can. That's a lot more interesting. Yep, so that's it. That's it for the German army. Yeah, we're definitely making progress. We could attack Stalingrad. It is a real possibility. Although I think we're better positioned to attack somewhere here in the south, quite frankly. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So with that said, let's go ahead and do the Battle of Rostov. And this is going to be our last battle for this turn. Go ahead and deactivate OKH. Yep, that's that. Kind of wish I blitzed on Leningrad, right? And then, oh, let's also deactivate this HQ as well. Yeah. So let's give it a shot. Let's go ahead and do this battle here now. Second round for Rostov. Second week of combat, rather. And we'll start with the airstrike. No hits. Defenders. It's possible the defenders can hold out. I'm a little concerned that we may not be able to take Rostov on this turn. I think that's why I wanted to try to encircle it completely, but I figured it would be better just to assault it completely instead. 2 Panzer Corps assaulting. Defender score hits. And then we've got 7 double fire. Oof, okay. Infantry. One more hit, please. Nice. We scored the 4 hits needed. And just like that, we did take Rostov. Barely. But we took it. Very easily, very smoothly took Rostov just like that. And a nice swooping blitz. Just as we expected. And so production will shift. Soviets are now at 60. Germans are now at 81 production. Nice. Germans gain 2 production this turn. Or, yeah, specifically this entire turn. Or fortnight, rather. Yeah, that's pretty good. We will now switch over to the I think what I'm going to go ahead and do, yeah, we're going to switch over to the Allies. And we'll start with the Soviets, I think. Because they, yeah, we'll start with them. All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and do that turn. So yeah, the German army looks like their momentum is still focused on the south. They've definitely shifted their weight from east of Ukraine now to effectively crossing the Don River and making a drive to Maikop, first of several Soviet oil fields, the smallest of the group, of the bunch, and also the nearest one to Europe, apparently, pretty much. So now we're going to definitely activate Stavka. That's clear as day. Moscow seems pretty safe, so that's good. We'll hide our units in Novgorod. Leningrad is not looking good at all. So one obvious move I'm going to do is move the 7th Army to Volkhov. It can act as a reserve so that if the German army can't take Leningrad on the next turn, we can reinforce it with an entire army. How about that? Now, of course, I'm a little concerned about the situation in the north, right? With the Finnish. We'll see. Maybe this would be a good time to transfer another unit to the north to protect Leningrad. We'll see. So anyways, that was one strategic move. I have several more that I want to do. We're going to, I think what I want to do, I have two defensive options right now. I can either try to defend the river line, this Kuban river line, with 3 units, or I can abandon that defense and then fall back to the Caucasus mountain range, whereby we have double defense and double fire, just like you would have in a major city. And you can check that by looking at the mountainous terrain. And so they get double defense. I thought the defenders got double fire in the mountain. I could have sworn that mountain got double defense. Maybe not. I could be wrong. That's strange. Let's double check those rules. Read up on mountain terrain. I could have sworn the mountain terrain gives the defender double fire, but according to our player aid, it does not. Holy moly! I've maybe been playing this game wrong the whole time. It says forest and hill terrain allow. Oh, that's hill. Excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong one. But no, even then, it still says that mountain defense is normal. Okay, let's just keep checking. Mountain defense. It says halts the movement, provides double defense, and sea invasions. So I think it's only the mountain infantry that actually gain double defense in mountains. I thought that only applied to offensive combat, but it may apply to defensive combat as well. That's a huge difference. Huh. Mountains. So what about mountain infantry? They get double fire. Right. They get double fire in mountains. Interesting. Okay, so that's not good for the Soviets. Strategically, I'm thinking we could pull back to Novorossiysk, like so. Oh, but you know what? I can put 2 units in these hexes. That's what I'm gonna do. Let's go ahead and do that. So that's 4 strategic moves. I'm just totally abandoning everything I can from Krasnodar to the Caucasus. abandoning this whole frontal area, allowing the German army to, in theory, take Maikop. But the good news is that I'm able to have a much better defensive line here further south with all this double defense, right? I think I'm going to actually pull back this infantry. Well, actually, where was this guy? He wasn't there, right? He was here in Maikop. Maikop. And then this cavalry. Yeah, we're going to move the cavalry here. Infantry there. And then, or I could try another combination. Because I really want to maximize my defense here as best I can. I think I want to keep the Ukrainian HQ, for example. I can keep it in Tuapse. And then I can then move it by rail on a later turn to anywhere I want. Pretty much to Tbilisi. And in theory, I can just move it strategically via rail all the way around Baku. Get it to Ordzhonikidze or Grozny. Try to put it somewhere over there. Right? Because then we can use it for a flanking attack. Maybe I can send it to Leningrad. You never know. I'm just trying to think proactively here. So it's all in the subtlety of these moves. So if I go back to the original setup, I think that might be the better move. Maybe move this unit there. Put the cavalry here. Or no, excuse me. Put the cavalry here. Oh, you know what? I just realized. That this infantry Novorossiysk has no choice but to end up in Tuapse. I can't send it anywhere else. Its hex speed is only 2. It has no choice but to go there. This infantry might as well put it there. But I think the combination only makes more sense if I put both infantry armies there and there. Cavalry goes there, because then I'm able to. The German army will be able to attack us. So I'm just trying to maximize my defense, and try to have it evenly distributed. An evenly distributed defense. That's the idea. And then I can move this guy there, right? And that leaves me with, that was 4 strategic moves. None of them were rail. I mean, I guess technically only one of them was rail. From Maikop to Tuapse, but all the other ones are operational moves, marching moves, you can call them. Not rail moves, but marching moves. Deployment moves, mobilized moves, I think is what they would call it. Mobilization moves. So that's 4 supreme moves with Stavka. And then the only other thing that I have to figure out is 2 more supreme moves, right? 2 more supreme moves that I can do. Well, actually, technically 1 more, because this guy was over here. Moving him to Volkov. So I only have 1 more left. 1 more move left, huh? I gotta figure out where to move the reinforcements, right? That is the key. Is trying to move the reinforcements around. That is the key indeed, let me tell you. So 1 more strategic move. We're doing the best we can with what we got, that's for sure. I don't really see where else to move another unit. Maybe I move this guy. I kind of wish I had put him in Moscow. I think I might move this guy to the north. Right? I feel pretty good with the setup overall. I mean, there's not really any other area. I don't have too many other areas that I can even move units, quite frankly. I could try to send a tank army to the north. I don't see it being all that helpful there. I'd rather send another infantry army if I can, but I just don't think I have any reserves right now that I want to give up from Moscow. And then these units here in Saratov. You know, that's going to require a bunch of supreme moves, at least 3, right, to redeploy those. And they're not even at full strength. They're completely under strength, rather. No point of moving those around. And my defense of Stalingrad, just good enough. Just good enough. Maybe I should try to put another unit in Astrakhan just in case. Right? Maybe that's the better move. Put another unit in Astrakhan. Maybe that's where I put this mech unit in Astrakhan. This guy. That would be an interesting move, right? I think I will. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like just like that. Yeah, because it does have double fire. I think it always has double fire defending. Right, and then in the in these marsh terrain, the attackers only have single fire, and then we have double defense. Yeah, that seems to be the best unit for there. And then when it turns winter, this whole area is going to freeze over, so the marshes become forests, and once those are forests, then we can exploit the mobility advantages that this unit has. So yeah, this is probably the best move for the Soviets. So we actually are holding on to the Crimean Peninsula, oddly enough, but I'm abandoning everything east of the Crimean Peninsula. You would think it's the other way around, but I guess this time around the German army is bypassing Crimea. We're trying to bypass it. I mean, you know, I saw a video with Indian Idel on the World War II channel, and he talked about how, you know, like he made the observation, like, why did the German army go for Crimea? What was the point if they ended up just encircling it? I think the strategic answer is because Adolf Hitler was really paranoid about protecting his primary source of oil in the war. I think, or at least his primary import of oil in the war, which was the Romanian oil fields concentrated around the region of Ploiești. And so that was like, I think they got like 40% of their oil from this sector, and it changed throughout the war. But that's a great area to apply some World War II data science, which would then branch off into something bigger. But it's all about getting good data. And so you have an attack on Ploiești that Adolf Hitler is really paranoid about. And so that's why he invaded Greece. That's why he invaded Crete. He didn't want any bombers bombing that area, so he wanted to deny as many airfields as he could. Just kind of how, like in the Pacific, there's this big competition for airfields, like the Guadalcanal campaign. You know, you kind of have a similar strategic role of trying to avoid strategic bombing on Romania. So he tried to like use the army as the solution, and so he figured, let me just overrun the airfields in Crimea. Let me overrun the airfields in Crete, failing to realize that the Allied bombers were not very effective. I'm pretty sure they weren't. They had a few good raids, right? But they were expensive and complicated operations, both by the Soviets and by the Allied forces, you know, American and British. And I think he could have, you know, just used the Luftwaffe as a good enough deterrence, probably, or at least like, you know, siege Crimea with the Luftwaffe would have been very possible. I think that's what they did historically anyways, but they eventually used that air power to assault Sevastopol. This time around, we have no assault on Sevastopol. What I'm hoping instead is an assault on Leningrad, right? So that's that. Man, so this video ended up being way longer. Of course it ended up being way longer. I lost track of time again, but you know, oh well. I guess my videos are going to be longer than expected, but I'm just going to have to make do with that. If you are watching these videos and you're making it this far, I mean, more hats to you, because you know, you probably have more patience than I do, I think. But yeah, that's that. Patience is, you know, definitely a good skill. I'm gonna definitely say the patience is a good skill for sure. So we're gonna carry on. I mean, I'm here to have fun. I'm here to simply make these videos, right? And however long they end up being, it's just the nature of the video, I guess. So I'm gonna deactivate Stavka, and that's gonna be the Soviet turn. And we're still not even done with the first Fortnight, right? So I'm taking my sweet time in this game, and you know what? I kind of like the pacing, frankly, folks. So hopefully you don't mind, because I know that people play this game a lot faster than I do. I mean, I'm trying to make it like I'm throwing things into these videos, right? And I'm also trying to explain the tutorial side of the game. So we're kind of taking our sweet time. I think, just as a heads up, if you do end up playing this game, you can play this game way faster than the way I'm playing. I mean, I'm playing probably at least 3 times slower than what you could play. I mean, you could probably do a month in under half an hour if you really were pushing for it. You could do it in half an hour. I've even heard people do it in like 10 minutes. So that it's very possible that you can play this game much faster. But we're playing with like several hours, right? But yeah, so basically, we're gonna now switch to the Western Front, and now I don't have to switch players because now the Western Allied players have the initiative in the Western Front. So let's go ahead and do their moves. And now as we switch our strategic focus to the Western Front, it kind of comes back to thinking about, what are good strategic objectives in the West. And I think the main two right now is either Norway or Morocco, basically French North Africa. And I think I concluded that before we attack Norway, we should probably deal with the Axis in North Africa, because the sooner we can deal with that, the easier time we're going to have, I think, with other targets elsewhere from a logistical standpoint and so on. I mean, the British could invade Norway. It's very feasible. I was actually able to think of a pretty decent invasion plan to invade Norway. But maybe by then it would be too late. The Axis would have been fortified. Who knows? It's hard to say. Very hard to say what the best strategy in Norway is. All I know is that it's not a cakewalk to invade Norway. I think we have a much higher chance of success in Morocco and Algeria. But the only caveat is that we definitely could use more American units. That's the only thing that I would suggest right now, is that we have more American units. And according to this, our reinforcements don't arrive until November. So we still have September, October. We still have 3 months before we have a second field HQ that we could use to invade. So the question is can the British do enough on their own? I think the British can do enough on their own with just what we got. I really do. I'm pretty sure they could pull it off just on their own. They don't need the Americans to defeat the French. And if we do defeat the French, I mean, what advantages do we gain? We gain a second front, but we also have a path to commit our entire army here, which frankly is not that strong, right? The British units are not that strong, but we could put them to good use and still should be able to defend the UK without a problem. All these militia units can be used to defend all these major ports. The Axis, it's going to be hard for them to launch an amphibious invasion across the English Channel when we have these naval bases, right? Portsmouth and London, basically. So it's possible, and we may be able to accelerate the Allied momentum in the Mediterranean. Maybe buy the Allies 3 more months compared to the historical operations, which they didn't land until I think November, but they didn't take Tunisia until I think it may have been March or May of 1943. It took them a while before they actually took Tunisia. So we'll see. I mean, the North African campaign is no cakewalk for both sides. It's a very large territory. The logistics are very demanding. But let's see what we're up against with the French. I think that's the main area to focus on. Is like what to do with Vichy France and what are we up against. And you can look at the strength of the Vichy units. I think this is allowed, but they're basically going to be these five units that you see here. 4 of which are at level 1, 1 of which is at level 0, and then I'm also pretty sure if we read rules up on like Vichy French units, they can surrender. They can definitely surrender against the Allied landings. So if that happens and we can force the French to surrender, then all the more power to attacking Vichy France. And I think we got to read a rule up that talks about French repulse for Vichy France. They're just very sensitive units. Vichy surrender, ambivalence, I think is the rule. And it basically says demoralized Vichy units only repulse on a roll of 1. And it also says that if the British score a die roll of 1, I'm pretty sure that unit surrenders. It's completely eliminated. So they're very demoralized units. So we should have a pretty cakewalk attack against Vichy, I think. So I think that's where we should go. That's where we should focus our attention. So let's activate the Supreme HQ, and then let's go ahead and start strategically moving units into that position. So we want to get as many units as we can. Now we have 4 Supreme moves, but it's going to take 2 hexes, two sea basins to move our units to, say, Gibraltar. So I can move these 2 units from there to Gibraltar, and this is going to be 1 sea basin, the English Channel. The second one is the Atlantic Ocean, and then it's going to end up now way here in the south in Gibraltar. Those are basically our 4 Supreme moves. That's all we can do with the British on this turn. It's just deploy those 2. So I already have 2 units in position, but we could use more. This unit, for example, should have the ability to do a blitz, and so I can launch 2 sea invasions with this unit. I think that's all we can do, really. I think that's actually all we'll be able to do. And then this Supreme HQ, it actually does not have blitz. It doesn't have a blitz ability, and since we don't have naval supremacy yet, our sea command range is normal. But once we gain naval supremacy, our sea command range is doubled, which is very powerful, meaning that this unit, for just 1 regular activation, would have a range of 2 by default. So we would have a much better range. But right now, I don't think it actually could participate in these invasions, unless I decide to stack it up in Gibraltar, right? And I already have 2 units there. Maybe I can pull this unit out of Gibraltar. I'm pretty sure it's restricted though to Gibraltar for the whole war. I don't know. What does this yellow R mean? Does it mean that it's restricted to Gibraltar itself, or can I pull it out of Gibraltar? That's a great question, and I have no idea what to do about that. Restricted units. Man, that's going to be a hard unit to read up on. Let me see if I can find anything on Gibraltar, though. With a quick just Control F. Gibraltar. 57 times they talk about it. That's a lot. Unit restriction. So I think Gibraltar... Only MF says until the Med front opens, only MF residents can occupy the Med front, and only fortress garrisons can occupy Malta. Yeah, so talks about British forces. I just want to know about the other restricted unit types. Oh, garrisons. Here we go. are restricted to Britain, Gibraltar, and Malta. The units in the latter two fortresses are subject to special rules before MF opens. 2 Home Guard garrison units arrive following French defeat. So I'm pretty sure all these restricted units, they're restricted to they're restricted to basically like the British Empire. Like you can call them British Empire home areas, Gibraltar and Malta. So in theory, I can pull this unit out and then substitute with another unit. And I think that's what I'm going to want to do at some point. I would want to stack up 5 units actually, 2 HQs and 3 infantry, but actually I can't. So no, I think we're gonna make do with what we have pretty much. So I'm gonna deactivate this unit. Then I think I'm gonna move it to London, right? No, we can leave it there in Bristol for now. Oh no, I'll put it in Portsmouth. How about that? So that's that. That is that. That's all she wrote. So yeah, that's going to conclude the ally turn for the first fortnight. Now we can switch over to the Axis turn on the first fortnight still. So this turn is definitely one of the longer turns that we've had so far. And that's the nature of military history for sure. Tends to be a very thorough subject. It really does. And I think there's a lot of levels to it that, you know, make it actually quite mysterious, quite frankly. So anyways, I could activate OKW, right? Activate OKW, right? Oberkommando der West. No, that's not right. Oberkommando der Wehrmacht. I think the W is for Wehrmacht. And that is high command of the Wehrmacht. High command of the military, pretty much. Military high command. Different from the Army high command, which is OKH. H for here, right? But I could try to deploy these units I have here, try to get them moving towards Egypt, right? I said that this is a limited window of opportunity to attack Egypt. It's either now or never. So maybe now is the time to do it. So I think my plan, the plan I had was to activate OKH, or OKW, excuse me. 6 supreme moves. We're going to transfer them to the Mediterranean front at half efficiency. That gives us three supreme moves over here. And then those 3 supreme moves that I'm going to do include the following. Move this 10th army via road to Mersa Matruh. That's 1 move. That's 1 supreme move. Move this unit here to Sidi Barani. That's 2. And then the third one I have, I think is going to be moving this unit to Mersa Matruh as well. So we have a pretty good offensive position. We are vulnerable to a British attack, right? The British could launch a preemptive attack on us. We'll see if they do. But I think we have a pretty high chance of pulling off some sort of counteroffensive. I think we have the potential of pulling off a pretty good counteroffensive. I feel pretty confident in saying that. I mean, actually, maybe a better unit to move up would be this guy. Put him there, like that, and then keep this unit as a reserve. So the 10th Italian Army is still a front line to absorb hits. That's kind of the strategy I have. I just realized something. If we want to attack Alexandria with 3 units, I'm going to have to do a better setup than this for sure. Much better setup. That's a bummer. That is a big bummer. 100%. So actually, yeah. This is definitely a tough situation for the Axis. I think, no, I think, yeah, that was okay. It was okay. It's not great, not terrible, right? I think what I'm going to do instead, put these 3 units, 1, 2, 3 like that. Stack 3 units up like that. And the next turn I'll be able to move 2 more units. Pretty sure. I wouldn't be able to attack on this turn with the sequence. It's hard to say that's the right move. At least we have a good defensive posture in Egypt, right? The British would not be able to counterattack or preemptively attack us if we triple stack. What is this area? Merasamatu. But in theory, they could encircle us. So that's not good. This guy can do it's a road move, right? Strategic road move. That's 1, 2, and then 3 like that. And then I gotta remind myself though that next turn I would be able to do another strategic move, but I can only move 2 more units. What 2 units would I want to move? Oh, I see. Very, very. Let me tell you now, it's a very interesting setup. Extremely interesting setup, for sure. So that move I definitely want to do. Yeah, very interesting. So that's 1. I could also do, I could do something like this. 1, 2, 3, like that. We're of course very vulnerable to a British attack doing this setup. Very vulnerable. Maybe the British will counterattack. But I think we have a very good chance of maybe attacking Alexandria on the next turn. Yeah. It's all about, what I'm beginning to learn, it's all about getting the units preemptively in position. That's the key takeaway I have right now. And I don't think I want to wait any longer to attack Alexandria. Right? The only problem is that the way I have it set up right now is that no matter what we do, we're going to have to we can only send 2 units on Alexandria on the next turn. That's the only rule of thumb. And I don't recommend attacking an area when it's going to come down to good dice. It really is. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's going to be our move. You know, so I guess this guy we can pull back and move this guy forward like that. Yeah. Very interesting, very interesting. All right, so we're going to do that. Not bad. So that's the only strategic move we have for the Western Front. Okay. Now we'll switch over to August, second fortnight. And hopefully this turn goes by a little faster, but now we're still playing as the Axis. And now I think the only battle I want to do on this turn is assaulting Leningrad. Full out assault on Leningrad. Now or never, right? Do it before the Soviets send any more reinforcements. So we're going to blitz on Leningrad. Let's go ahead and do that. And I don't have any reserves over there. And I'm actually going to hold off on OKH because I want to give it time to build it up again before I activate it. I need it for the rest of the summer. Or I could really use it for the rest of the summer to just keep moving, keep transferring units around from Army Group Center. Maybe move them to, keep moving them to the south. Speaking of the south, what I could do is interesting. I could try to blitz in the south to put pressure on these areas here, or I can activate one time. Yeah, well, let's activate Army Group South as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and definitely take Maikop so I can get this infantry moving. I could also try to go for Stalingrad, but I figure Maikop, same production as Stalingrad, definitely more valuable. So let's do that. Get these infantry on the march to the south. I also have some nice Panzer Corps as well. Pretty much securing this whole southern sector. But the only problem is that my units are out of range. I don't have any units that can actually strike these areas here. Now it's going to give the Soviet army the opportunity to build these units up to full strength again. And I don't want that to happen. So there's an incentive to blitz. Even though I don't have combat support, right? Which is a complete and total bummer. Even though I don't have combat support, I'm still trying to at least contest these areas. And I think the best units to contest are going to be infantry, since they're the most cost effective. They can take the hits, all that good stuff. In fact, I'm actually gonna launch, yeah, full out attack. And then like I can move this infantry over there. And then that's gonna leave me with, let's put this infantry, I guess, right here. And I got 4 units that I'm moving down, right? 5 units. And then the remaining units, they seem to be pretty good. Don't think I need any more. Frankly, don't think I need much more. Let's go ahead and get this infantry to the north instead. And then I'm going to go ahead and get this Panzer Corps there. Yeah, just try to have this Panzer army is going to protect the flank for now until we can break through. That's the idea. That's kind of the plan of action. The only problem with this plan that I see is that I don't have any units in Rostov. And I probably want to have at least 1 unit in Rostov just in case the Soviets do break through. It's always good to keep a unit in Rostov just to control, because all the Axis supplies is right now, like, you know, the junction is all at Rostov, right? All these units that are moving south, their entire supply line is coming from Rostov. So if Rostov is pinned down for whatever reason, all these units are going to be out of supplies. So there is an incentive right now to actually put pressure on Kerch. Even take Kerch, because if we can take it, we can gain another supply path, which is what we want. Definitely. Maybe even start putting pressure on Sevastopol. But we're going to need... oh, I have another unit up here in the north. Maybe we can get this guy there. Something like that, maybe. Oh, you know what? Let's get this guy here. How about that? That's the better move right there. Although that kind of defeats the whole thing I was just talking about. So you know what? I'm beginning to realize I might just be short of 1 unit. It's kind of a complete bummer. So you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and leave Army Group A in there in Rostov. Just leave the HQ there. That's the only thing that I can really afford. And then no units were blitzing, but no units are actually gonna attack, which is so weird. But I think that's the right call. All right, so that's that. So we're doing, oddly enough, this turn we're doing 2 blitzes. The only reason why I'm blitzing in the north, by the way, is because if I don't do any attack in the north, I need to do mandatory combat in Leningrad, right? That's one of the combat rules, pretty much. But unfortunately, I won't have any combat support. The enemy has triple fire by default. They're actually going to have quadruple fire if I don't attack, and I just don't get any combat support. I guess it just represents like a limitation in our combat power too, and that's pretty much what happened at Stalingrad. I'm pretty sure. Well, I guess it wouldn't even happen at Stalingrad. It's not a fortress, so it seems to happen in Leningrad for some reason. Maybe the Soviets have a very strong counterattack ability, something like that. It's hard to say. So what I'm going to do for Army Group North is I'm going to blitz. The reason why I want to blitz is because I don't want the Soviet unit reinforcing Leningrad just yet. So we're going to go ahead and get that unit in there. And then as far as attacking Novgorod, maybe there's still an incentive to try to put some pressure, if we can, over there. Of course, it leaves our situation very vulnerable to a Soviet counteroffensive. They could, in theory, break out, and if they do break out, they're going to cut us off. So we'll see. I still have a blitz turn, so I'm going to try to make another attack. No, you don't want to do that. No, I don't think we're going to attack Novgorod on this turn. As much as I want to attack it, I don't think there's any clear incentive right now to attack it. We just need more reinforcements. That's the only solution. So we're going to airstrike Leningrad. Let's go ahead and start the battle and see if we can take it. I don't know what the odds are, but I'm sure we could calculate it. I could make a video and actually calculate the statistical odds or probabilistic odds, right? Probabilistic odds. So let's find out. Nope. Keep the blitz marker on. Start the airstrike. Here we go. No hits. Defenders roll. They score 2 hits. Ouch. Inflicted on our infantry. So I think the chances of us taking it this turn are slim, but it's still possible. Let's find out. Triple fire, double fire, and 2 single fire. Here we go. Okay, at least we scored 1 hit. Nice. Man, it's coming down to the wire. It really is. I just realized we could have. Dang it, we could have actually sent another Panzer Corps in there. Yeah, we could have. Oh man, I could have sent 2 Panzer Corps in there, huh? That's a bummer. That I didn't send another Panzer Corps on Leningrad. That was kind of dumb, wasn't it? Yeah, it was very dumb. Anyways, that was a big mistake. Oh well. I'm gonna pull out. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull out of as many units as I can from Novgorod. It is a tough situation. We'll leave these units behind, I guess. We'll pull 2 units out, though. Okay. Let's see if these moves are worth it. Before we do the blitz, though, let's change this marker as well. We can do a blitz here in the south. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this unit to Novgorod, and then we're going to go ahead and attack these areas in full force with full strength units, like so. Now there is a limitation to mountain battles, and it basically is such that the defenders, the attackers can only have a stacking limit of 2 units. So you can see that from the terrain effects, the stacking limit is 2. So basically, we're going to have to constantly rotate units in and out if we want to take any of this, pretty much. So that is also going to complicate the situation for sure. Definitely going to complicate the situation. So deactivate Army Group South, and then I'll get it to Maikop. No, we'll just put it there. But we did gain Maikop, which I think I haven't included yet, right? Yeah. Yeah, the Soviets lost Rostov and Bryansk on the last turn, and then this turn they just lost another one, Maikop, but the Germans gained 2 from taking it. Okay, that's that. Production is shifting, and then now we have the Battle of Leningrad. Let's have a German victory while we can. Start with the airstrike, no hits. Defenders roll 1, they score hits. We'll put it on finish unit, and then we got the triple fire, double fire, and then the single fire rolls. Boom. The mortar regiment fires, they got triple fire, and they scored the 3 hits that we needed. That's a big change. German army just won at Leningrad as well. So pretty notable wins for the German army. That was a close call. I know that the Soviets could have reinforced. That was a very close call. But the German army just achieved another strategic victory. So not the biggest, not necessarily like gonna change the outcome of the whole war, but it is going to add up. It may not change the outcome of the whole war, but it is changing the outcome on the Eastern Front slightly. So yeah, the German army, we took Smolensk and we took Leningrad in the last couple months. That's big. We took Leningrad pretty quickly too. So just now, that's a big loss for the Soviets. Their production is going to go -6 now. Ouch. The German army gained 6 on this turn. Holy moly. So the German production, I think, just went up by 10 points. They took Leningrad, they took Bryansk, they took Rostov, that's 8, and they took Maikop, that's 10. They just gained 10 production points in one turn. That's really impressive. While the Soviets essentially lost 10 on this turn. They lost 9. Now their production is at 53. Yeah. So that's a big change. And then we still got a few more battles. So let's not forget these battles here. Battle of Tuapse, here we go. Defenders roll 4, no hits. Attackers roll. Defenders have triple defense, no hits. They scored 2 hits, but it wasn't enough. East of Tuapse, we got another battle. Cavalry roll 3. Ooh, they scored 2 hits. Nice. German infantry will roll, including the double fire mountain troops. Wow, and the Germans do score a hit. Nice. All right, and that is that, folks. That's gonna be it. That is definitely interesting changes in the war. So now that Leningrad is taken by the Axis, the German army is free to move up to 4 units through Finland. And not to mention, we can actually do a diplomatic event to get Finish's production, to get Finland to join the Axis, basically. And here it is, the diplomatic event. right over here, it's FX. Finland joins the Axis. And then if you roll, you get there's a 1 to 3 chance if the Axis control Leningrad. 50% chance. And the Finnish production is transferred over to the Axis. So that means in theory, our production is at 89. So it was at 79, 89 right now. We could have our production at 92, which is almost double of what it was at the start of Operation Barbarossa. It was at 54 at the start. Then it goes up by 92. It's not an increase by a factor of 2, but it's getting there. And we basically we might actually be able to sustain our casualties more effectively relative to the Soviet army. And given the Soviet losses, that may be very significant. So the German army, I mean, we haven't lost steam yet. We've been a lot more methodical so far in the campaign, but it's paid off. It's definitely paid off. And thus far, I don't think the Soviets have had any successful counterattack or counteroffensive, or rather I should say their counterattacks on the local level have been pretty good. At least in Novgorod, they were very good. But anywhere else on the front, the Soviets haven't had any effective counteroffensive just yet. And so speaking of which, we're going to now switch over to the Soviets and start to wrap up this video. And that's that. That's going to be this turn. And so we're going to hide the Soviet units. The Germans are gaining a lot of territory. And the fact that they took Leningrad, that was big. That was very big. That was a very risky battle, I'll tell you now. It could have gone either way. And I think it was also lucky that the Soviets didn't have a reserve army in Volkhov, which I would argue was a bit of a strategic blunder for the Soviets. This 7th Army should have probably been in Volkhov, not in over here in the north. I guess we were too concerned about the Finnish breakout from here in the north. And I think we overestimated the Soviet defense in Leningrad, or rather, I think the Germans just got some very good dice rolls, and it was enough to smash. I mean, it was really just lucky Axis dice, or skilled Axis dice, however way you want to call it. But that was really interesting. I will tell you now. That was very definitely got me a little. That was intense. I gotta say. So, trying to as some historians would say, trying to outwit I guess it'd be the Greek god Mars, who's like the god of war, right? Trying to outwit the god of war, pretty much. So that's that. Soviet turn. What do the Soviets want to do? It's hard to say. It's hard to say the best option for the Soviets. We're staying put in the central sector. We got a pretty good defense. But I think the best thing for the Soviets to do right now, maybe we try to advance our units to the front line. Maybe we start considering right now, a summer counteroffensive, perhaps. I'm actually going to activate the Western HQ. And what I'm going to do is try to stack up as many units as I can on the front line. And it's better if we have a defense that is stacked up really strong at the front than it is to have a defense in depth like this, like we've been having throughout most of the conflict. It's better to have our units stacked up along the front line. Much better. Do something like that. And we have a pretty powerful reserve, I gotta say. Yeah, just might as well quadruple stack these areas over here. We could use quadruple stack. Well, this is the only unit that can move up. Yeah, do something like that. I think that's what we're gonna do. Just stack our units up to the tippy top. Stack them up, stack them up, stack them up. And the idea is to have, again, just a good defense in depth. That's the key. That's going to be the thing. I think that's the key to our success. Man, we could use more mechanized units over here. A lot more. Okay, that's his, oof. Our situation here, I'll tell you, our situation east of Smolensk is very tenuous. These moves look cool and all, but I don't think it's actually going to be enough. I don't feel comfortable with our defense here still, even if we were to build these areas up. And I think the Germans can still smash one of the two clusters. It's going to be hard for them to smash both, but they could smash one of the two. It's only going to work. This only works if we quadruple stack. We're going to have to quadruple stack our units there. It's the only way. Truly. It's the only way that's going to work. Gotta stack up our units there. Like that. No, we won't, I guess we won't put that guy there. I think over here, I'm still going to try to create like a defense in depth to the east. I think that's what we're going to try to do. Maybe I can move up this infantry there. No, that's not a great move. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't stack up too much to the east. But I can create a strategic defense in depth over there, which does work pretty well. Seems like it works pretty well. And as far as dead pile, we do have some more units that we can build up. So that's that. Okay, I got it. Put that guy there. Putting that guy there. Yeah. Definitely feeling a lot more confident with that setup. Just focusing on a defense in depth. That's the key. Creating a defense in depth. Wherever possible. The only weak point I see right now over here is this river crossing, which could in theory be destroyed. Not to mention, Orel, another possible vulnerable target. And the only remedy to that would be to put another unit there. Either that or put another unit over here. Right. So, yeah, I think that's what we're going to stick to. Interesting set of Soviet moves. Probably not the best, but certainly not the worst. And I'm really putting a big emphasis on defending east of Smolensk because I just do not want to deal with another German breakthrough at all over there. Heck no. It's also possible that they could deal with another breakthrough over here. So you know what? I'm actually going to send this guy there. And this unit was over here. We're going to put him there. So I'm essentially deploying the Soviet tank armies. I'm pretty much sending them forward and putting them into the fight. Next turn, I will gain more Soviet production. So I should be able to build these units up. But I don't want the Germans to gain any more progress over here. In the Moscow sector. In fact, I want to change the odds and make the odds favor the Soviets by actually potentially launching our own counteroffensive, probably somewhere here in the center. So the key to that will be our tank armies. And so it's time that we consider trying to get some sort of strategic offensive going if we can. And at least for now, the fact that we lost Leningrad, I mean, it's not going to be a while before we can do anything else in this part of the front. And all I need to do now is just pull the units away from Leningrad rather, and start moving them to Moscow. And then we'll have enough units here to pretty much match the Germans, I think, in combat power finally. The only other thing I got to worry about is the situation here in the deep south. And I think for now we're just going to hold the line with what we got and just try to build as many reserves as we can over there in the south. And then other than that, try to defend Leningrad. But at least the good news for the Soviets is that it's going to be hard for the Germans to break through for further battles. But the bad news is that chances are they still can make more progress. That's the bad news. Yeah, so that's it. We could also... I just realized that we probably should pull back these units before... we should probably pull back this HQ before it potentially gets destroyed. So you know what? I am going to activate Stavka. And I'm going to pull this guy out over there. I can go ahead and send this mech unit forward. That's 2 strategic moves. And then I think I have the luxury of pulling out one more Soviet unit from this area, from these towns. I think I'm going to move this guy there. And then we'll move one more infantry unit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll probably leave it there in Sukhumi. So in case the German army breaks out, we still have a chance to pull back our army pretty much. And then that will be it for the strategic moves for the Soviets. But the priority is to defend these areas here. And try to build up as many reserves as we can. So yeah, that's it for the Soviets. Deactivate Stavka. And that's it. That's going to be the turn. I think we now pretty much done. Technically we're still not done. We finished the Eastern Front. Let's switch over now to the Western Front. And start with the Allied initiative. And I think they're going to pass their turn since we don't have any more full strength Supreme HQs. Unless we want to attack the Axis in North Africa, we could. We could definitely try. Maybe we should. We could or we should. We could only attack with 2 British units though. And then we could have our flank protected, but chances are the Axis are going to... If there's any time to attack, it would be now. Now is the time to attack with the British. We could make an attack on Mersa Matruh and see if it works. See if we can catch the Axis off guard. And maybe we should. And I think I have enough combat power to protect the flanks, right? I'm going to do it. I'm going to attack with the British. So we're doing a lot of moves this turn. But yeah, we're going to attack with 2 units of the British. Plus there's an incentive in the Mediterranean front to attack. Because I'm pretty sure the armor has triple fire while attacking. And then this mech unit has double fire while attacking. So they just gain more combat firepower. And then I can also move these units to protect the flank. I can send this infantry. Oh, maybe we should blitz. No. I think we'll do that. Oh man, we got to be careful with whatever the Axis do. It all comes down to whether or not this battle succeeds. If this battle fails, we're going to be in for a world of hurt for sure. don't know, maybe we try to do something like this. This move actually, we may regret doing this move as the British. But let's see. I mean, we have some pretty good chance of succeeding. I mean, we got armor. We have a lot of British armor. An attack before the Axis attack, preemptive strike. Let's go ahead and give it a go. We have the initiative. This is a good time to put that initiative to good use. So let's go for it. So we're going to do that with the British. I thought I was going to pass the turn, but nope. We're going to start with this battle. We have combat support. Start with the airstrike. No hits. Defenders have double fire and single fire. Oof, they score 3 hits. Okay, so I think the British attack may fail. We got triple fire and double fire, though. 2 dice each. No hits. Okay. I think the British attack just failed, and I think now the Axis actually have a higher chance of taking Alexandria. Oof. We'll see. We'll see. I may have just totally effed up there with the British. But yeah, that's it. That's going to be the turn, folks. I was trying to be aggressive there with the British, and it may have failed. But yeah, switch over now to the Axis. We've still got one more turn left. Switch over to the Axis and see what they'll do. This is a great time for the Axis to blitz, right? Counter blitz against the British. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to activate the Africa Corps and put it into action. We're going to blitz with the Africa Corps. And I'm going to... I wonder if I should activate OKH as well. We certainly could. Let's launch this attack there with the Africa Corps armored units. Then this Mech Corps is the only unit we have covering the flank, which is a little weak if you ask me. And unfortunately, these militia units, they can only move with the supreme moves. So the only problem with this German counteroffensive is that our flank is a little vulnerable. That's the only problem. And I can't even move up these militia units to protect the flank, even if I wanted to. So yeah, we're going to hold off. So the Axis don't have many reinforcements, but the British are in a pretty awkward setup right now. So yeah, Axis counter offensive. Technically, the British attack was a preemptive strike against a German invasion or Axis invasion. And now the Axis are counterattacking that preemptive strike. How interesting. So let's start the battle. Airstrikes, 1 hit. Oh man, the British failed. The British attack completely failed, and now they're about to lose 2 more corps. The Africa Corps rolls with quadruple fire. 1 hit only. Oh wow. Followed by double fire, 1 hit, infantry, another hit. 3 hits though, just enough to eliminate the British without any Axis casualties. Okay. Yeah, we definitely jumped the gun there with the British. That was a pricey move for the British. And now the Axis actually have a really nice initiative. Now we can actually keep pushing forward. I think I'm going to launch... where do I want to attack, right? Let's just make a big push straight forward, and then I guess the Italians will cover the flank. Yeah, let's do that. And then we'll do an airstrike here, attacking El Alamein. Now we got the Battle of El Alamein finally. Let's go ahead and do this battle. This British unit probably should have been at El Alamein, or not. We'll see. So let's start the battle. We still have combat support. British unit all by itself. Infantry takes a hit. I don't think this unit's going to survive. Then British roll. They score a hit. Africa Corps takes a hit. There you go. The triple fire and double fire rolls. Excuse me, quadruple fire and double fire rolls. And they score 4 hits. And just like that, the Africa Corps smashes El Alamein. Just like that. And then we got one more battle on this flank against the HAB force. I'm not sure what that HAB stands for, HAB. But it's like some special recon group. It scores 2 hits against the Italians. Very nice. And then the Italians roll 1 double fire, 1 single fire, or 2 single fire, no hits. Okay, so the British at least scored a little bit of hits against the Axis. And that will end that. Okay. So yeah, I think the British have officially lost Alexandria, which is pretty freaking sad. This was a bad month for the Allies. I'll tell you now, this was really bad. Really, really bad month for the Allies. I probably should have not attacked with the British. That was too ambitious. And then we also lost Leningrad. This was Axis high tide for sure. Second major British defeat in North Africa. Technically third, if you include the first Rommel counteroffensive. Technically fourth if you include Tobruk. So at this rate, the British cannot sustain the war. They're going to probably have to fall back to like the Suez Canal now. Really bad, really, really big loss there for the British, and only because they attacked preemptively, which was just too ambitious. So I guess the lesson here is that Montgomery is still not in command of North Africa, because the British are just right now about to lose Egypt. That was really bad. You know how long it's going to take for us to get these reinforcements transferred over, rebuilt, all that good stuff. It's going to take a long time. Nevertheless, we're going to keep trying, but that was bad. That was a pretty bad loss, I got to say. Pretty bad loss. The Africa Corps is still very, very, very much alive right now. But that will sum up this turn. Definitely high tide for the Axis. A number of strong victories for the Axis, from Rostov to Bryansk to Smolensk to Leningrad, and now recently to Egypt. The Axis are winning this war. At least they're winning on all fronts. They're winning on all the major fronts of the war. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I have for this video. Definitely a longer video, but if you enjoyed this video, of course, you can like the video or anything like that. Comment below. Feel free to share any thoughts you have on any War II analyses. Super fascinating subject. But yeah, with that said, I'm going to wrap it up here, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out.